Please learn from my experience before you regret it. My name is Robert, and I am 74 years old. If you saw me walking down the street in my neighborhood, you would see a man who looks like he has won the game of life. I live in a beautiful home with a view of the water. I drive a car that stays polished, and my bank account has more zeros in it than I ever dreamed of when I was starting out as a young man in my 20s. On paper, I am the ultimate success story. But every evening at 6 p.m., when the sun starts to set and the house grows quiet, I am forced to face a truth that no amount of money can hide. I am successful, I am wealthy, and I am completely, utterly alone. I have 2 sons, both in their 40s now, with families of their own. They live less than 2 hours away. But I haven't seen my grandchildren in 6 months, and the last time my oldest son called me, it was to ask for a copy of a tax document. Our conversations are polite, they are brief, and they are empty. I'm telling you this because I see you. I see you grinding away at your desk at 7 p.m. I see you checking your emails during your daughter's dance recital. I see you telling your wife, "Just a few more years, honey. Then we can finally relax." I was that man. I spent 40 years building a legacy that I thought would make my family proud. I thought I was working for them. But what I was actually doing was building a wall between us, brick by brick, year by year. By the time I retired at 70 and finally had the time to be a father and a grandfather, I realized I was trying to enter a room where the door had been locked years ago. If you are over 50 or even 60, and you are still prioritizing the grind over the people in your house, I need you to listen to the story of how I lost everything while gaining the world. Let's go back to the mid-80s. I was 35, and I had just landed a senior partner position. I was on top of the world. My sons, Jason and Mark, were 5 and 7. I remember Sarah, my wife at the time, telling me that the boys were asking when I'd be home for dinner. I'd give her the same answer every time. Tell them Daddy is building an empire for them. I truly believed that. I thought that providing a private school education, a big house in the right zip code, and a college fund was the definition of being a good father. I viewed my absence as a sacrifice I was making for their future. What I didn't realize was that a child doesn't live in the future. A child lives in the now. To a 7-year-old, a father who isn't there for dinner isn't building an empire. He's just gone. I remember a specific Saturday morning. I was supposed to take Jason to his first Little League game. I had the glove in the car. I had the camera ready. But an hour before we were supposed to leave, a crisis happened at the firm. A client was unhappy, a deal was sliding, and my ego told me that only I could fix it. I walked into the living room and saw Jason standing there in his tiny uniform, his eyes bright with excitement. I told him, "Buddy, I'm so sorry. Something came up at work. I'll make it up to you next weekend, I promise." Jason didn't cry. He just nodded and looked at his shoes. He had already learned, at 7 years old, that work was the most important thing in my life. I went to the office, I saved the deal, and I felt like a hero. But that night, when I came home, the house was dark. Jason was asleep. I had won the deal, but I had lost a piece of my son's trust that I would never get back. I did that 1,000 times over the next 20 years. I missed the plays, the graduations, and the quiet moments of heartbreak that happen in a teenager's life. I was always there, providing the money. But I was never present. I was a ghost in my own home. I'd be sitting at the dinner table, but my mind was in a boardroom in New York. I'd be on vacation in Hawaii, but I spent 4 hours a day on the phone. I told myself that once I hit the big number, the retirement goal, I would make it up to them. I had this fantasy that at 65, we'd all be best friends, going on fishing trips and laughing about the old days. But here is the biological reality of time. You cannot save it like money. You cannot put time in a high-yield savings account and expect it to be there for you 20 years later with interest. Time is a vanishing asset. When I hit 65 and finally stepped away from the firm, I went to Jason and Mark, ready to be the father I had always planned to be. But they didn't need me anymore. They had learned how to live, how to solve problems, and how to celebrate wins without me. I was a stranger who shared their last name. They were polite, they invited me to Thanksgiving, but there was no connection. There were no inside jokes. There was no shared history. I had provided the house, but I had never built the home. I see young entrepreneurs and professionals today posting on social media about the hustle. They talk about working while they sleep and sacrificing everything for the dream. I want to reach through the screen and shake them. I want to tell them that the dream is a lie if it doesn't include the people you love. Your company will replace you in a week. Your clients will forget your name in a month. But your children? They will carry the memory of your absence for the rest of their lives. I retired with millions of dollars, and do you know what I do with it? I sit in this big, beautiful house, and I wonder what Jason is doing. I wonder if his son, my grandson, likes baseball as much as he did. I have all the money in the world to buy the best seats in the stadium, but I haven't been invited to a game in 3 years. I sacrificed the now for a later that never arrived the way I expected. I thought I was buying their love with my hard work, but all I was doing was buying their independence from me. Now, at 74, the silence in this house is the loudest thing I've ever heard. If you are still in the middle of your career, if you are still telling yourself that you will focus on your family once things settle down, I am your ghost of Christmas future. Things never settle down. There is always another goal, another promotion, another reason to stay late. But your children are on a clock that only moves forward. The most painful part of this realization didn't hit me until the day I officially walked away from the company. I expected a grand transition, a feeling of, I've made it. I had the gold watch, the retirement party, and a bank account that ensured I'd never have to worry about a bill again. But when I drove home that final evening and pulled into my driveway, the reality of my choice hit me like a physical blow. I had spent 40 years building a mountain of wealth, only to realize I was standing on top of it alone. My sons had built lives that were completely insulated from mine. They didn't need my advice, they didn't need my money, and most heartbreakingly, they didn't seem to need my company. I remember calling Mark, my younger son, about a month after I retired. I told him I wanted to take the whole family, his wife and my 2 granddaughters, on a luxury cruise to the Mediterranean. I told him I'd pay for everything. First-class airfare, the best suites on the ship, the works. I thought this was how I would finally fix things. I thought I could buy back the 20 years of missed birthdays with one grand gesture. Mark was quiet for a long time on the other end of the line. Then he said, "Dad, that's a nice offer, but we've already planned our summer. The girls have soccer camp and we're just going to do a quiet week at the lake with Sarah's parents." He wasn't being mean. He wasn't even angry. He was just indifferent. To him, I was an afterthought, a generous donor perhaps, but not a core member of his life. I spent that night looking at old photos. I found one of Mark when he was 10, standing in the rain at a bus stop, looking around for me. I remember that day. I had promised to pick him up because it was pouring. But I got caught up in a conference call that couldn't wait. By the time I remembered him, he had already walked home, soaked to the bone. Looking at that photo now, I realized that every time I chose work over them, I was training them to live without me. I was teaching them that I wasn't reliable, that I wasn't the person they should turn to when things got hard. I succeeded so well at providing that I made myself obsolete. I gave them everything they needed to survive, but I never gave them the one thing they actually wanted: my presence. I see men in their 60s now, still chasing that one last deal, and I want to ask them, who are you doing this for? If you say it's for your family, go home and ask them if they'd rather have a bigger inheritance or a father who knows the names of their best friends. I promise you, they will choose the father every single time. We tell ourselves these lies to justify our ambition. We call it duty or responsibility, but often it's just ego. We love the feeling of being the big man at work because at work we are respected and in control. At home, being a father is hard. It's messy. It requires patience and vulnerability. It was easier for me to manage 100 employees than it was to sit on the floor and play Legos with my sons. So I chose the easy path, the path of work, and I called it sacrifice. The most bitter pill to swallow is seeing my sons with their own children. I watch them through the window of my car sometimes when I drop off gifts. I see Jason coaching his daughter's t-ball team. I see him leaving work early to make sure he's there for bedtime stories. He's the father I should have been. And while I'm proud of the man he's become, it breaks my heart to realize that he learned how to be a good father by watching me and doing the exact opposite. He decided that he would never let his children feel the way I made him feel. My success provided him with the financial security to be present, but it also provided him with a roadmap of what not to do. I am the cautionary tale his children will never even know, because to them, I am just Grandpa Robert, the man who sends the big checks, but doesn't know their favorite colors. If you are watching this and you still have time, if your kids are still in the house, or even if they are grown but haven't completely closed the door yet, I am begging you to change your priorities today, not tomorrow. Today. Close the laptop. Cancel the late meeting. Go home and look your spouse in the eye. Listen to your children talk about their day, even if it seems trivial to you. Because those trivial moments are the bricks that build the foundation of a relationship. Once that foundation is missed, you cannot go back and pour the concrete later. The ground has already shifted. The house has already been built on sand. I have all the success the world tells you to want. I have the prestige, the assets, and the comfort. But I would trade it all for one afternoon in 1992 where I actually showed up for that Little League game. I would trade every dollar in my investment portfolio to be the first person my sons call when they have good news. Instead, I am the third or fourth call, usually made out of a sense of duty. Success without connection is just a well-furnished cage. Don't build yourself a cage and call it a kingdom. I spent my life running a race toward a finish line that didn't exist. I thought there was a point where I would have enough, and then I could focus on what mattered. But enough is a phantom. There is always more money to be made, always a bigger title to achieve. The only thing that is finite is your time and the childhood of your children. Don't spend the most valuable thing you own chasing something that can be replaced. Your job will post your position on a job board before your obituary is even printed. Your family is the only thing that is truly yours. Thank you for listening to an old man's regrets. My hope is that by sharing my failure, I can help a few of you find a real victory. If this story touched you, or if you felt that pull of the grind taking over your life, leave a comment below. Let's talk about how we can start choosing family over the empire before it's too late. Hit the like button if you needed this wake-up call, and subscribe to join a community of men and women who are learning to age with intention, not just with assets. Now do me a favor. Turn off this video, put down your phone, and go be present with the people who actually matter. They are waiting for you.